Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tim's NFL Fantasy Football Weekly Report. I'm your host, Tim Shirer, and we'll be going over the moves from last week that some made and things that should be done this week with in regards to moves for fantasy football. I'm going to say something right off, and I'll probably repeat it throughout the show. If you're going to ask me questions, which I love questions, I love when people ask me questions. Please, if you're going to ask about a player, could you use their full name and not abbreviations? Because I'm 58 years old and I'm not good with abbreviations or just letters of names. So if you could use a full name, like Jonathan Taylor instead of JT, or Jackson Smith Njigba instead of JSN. You know, if you use their full name, I'm much more likely to answer the question and maybe give you some advice on a player. It might not be great advice, but hopefully it is for you. But this show is brought to you by CT Roofing and Power Wash. They're the official roofer of the Lake County Sentinel. For a free estimate, you can call them at 440-278-0506, and they will come out and give you a free estimate on your roof and hopefully get you set up for a new roof, and they'll help you file an insurance claim. So roofing and siding can get insurance claims in some cases. So they're a great company. So some of the things we have here, we have Aaron Rodgers will probably not play this week, supposedly a fractured wrist. The look on his face tells me that it hurt. I broke my wrist once. I can't imagine that he could play. I can't even imagine it. These guys are tough, but I can't even imagine he could play. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be out. If you have him, I don't know if you want to pick up Mason Rudolph. If you have other options, probably a good thing, because obviously I don't think Mason Rudolph can do what Aaron Rodgers can do. But and then another quarterback situation, Justin Fields has been benched by the New York Jets, and Tyrod Taylor will get the start. Honestly, I don't think that's much of an upgrade at a quarterback situation. If you have to pick up Tyrod Taylor, your quarterback situation is probably pretty dire anyway, unless you're just doing it for a bye week. But I did pick up Taylor a couple weeks ago because I like to hoard quarterbacks in my one league. Because I saw this coming. Everybody saw it coming. Come on. Let's not act. I'm not going to sit here and act like I knew something nobody else knew. The Jets fans wanted him benched, and the Jets fans got what they wanted. And usually New York fans get what they want as far as player personnel, kind of like the Browns, but it very rarely translates into wins. Very rarely. But Tyrod Taylor will be under center for the Jets this week. There's a chance right now. We'll find out tomorrow with the Wednesday practice. But there's a possibility that Chris Godwin and Bucky Irvin return this week. There's a possibility. I believe they both practiced limited last week. So there's a possibility they return. But in that case, with the Buccaneers, it doesn't matter if they return or not, because the Buccaneers defense, as I said last week, if you're dumb enough to still have the Buccaneers defense on your fantasy team, you probably should lose anyway. That's a great trade. I would trade Mark Andrews for him. Is it a keeper league? If it's a keeper league, I would definitely do it because Mark Andrews for JMO, I would definitely do it because he's younger. And I would definitely do that trade. I would do it anyway. I think it's a good trade. I know Andrews, is a great tight end. He's a Hall of Famer, but it's a little spotty whether he's going to get you points or not. So, so there's a chance Bucky Irving could come back. But like I said, and Chris Godwin. But like I said, if you still have the Buccaneers defense and you're playing them, you don't deserve to win. It's a disgusting defense. And look, you can see I'm wearing my Buccaneers shirt. I'm a Buccaneers fan. The defense is sickening. Play everybody on the offense that you have on the Buccaneers offense because they can score points. And I believe they'll score points against the Rams too. That game could be 42-40, a final. You know what I mean? But you've got to not play the Buccaneers defense if you have it. And I'm telling you, drop them faster than you would drop a hot match if it was in your hand and it was about to burn your hand. Drop the Buccaneers defense. Get rid of them. Be gone. Disappear. They're terrible. So, but let's go over some of the leaders from last week. We've got a quarterback is no surprise because he played the worst defense in the NFL, in my opinion, the worst defense in the NFL right now. We're going to go with top 8 this week. We're going to go with top 8. So top 8 in high point leagues. Yeah, Josh Allen was number 1. Jacoby Brissett was number 2. Bryce Young was 3. Dak Prescott was 4. That was against the Raiders defense, so I don't think that's that impressive if you ask me. Marcus Mariota was 5 against Miami's defense, but Dylan Gabriel had a good week against Miami's defense too. Patrick Mahomes was 6th. Jared Goff was 7th. And Drake May was 8th. I'm going to give you some advice here before we get to the top 8 for the low point leagues. I'm going to give you some advice. And my advice is, unless you absolutely need a quarterback and he's available, stay away from Shedeur Sanders. Stay away. And it's not only because it's not an indictment only on him. It's an indictment on the disgusting Browns offense. If you're going to pick up a player on the Browns offense, it's Quinshon Judkins. Or as I said, I like to call him Quinn because he's good. No way. Don't pick up Sanders. Unless you're in a keeper league and you want to keep him because maybe he'll play next year more. If that's possible. But if you need a quarterback to get you points, it's not going to be Shedeur Sanders. I don't care if they're playing the Raiders or not. So now let's get to the low point quarterbacks. And that is, we will start with right here. The low point quarterbacks from week 11, pretty much the same people. We'll do the top 9 here. How about that? We got Josh Allen. Again, he had a great week against Tampa, but I could have probably had a great week against that defense. Bryce Young, Dak Prescott. Again, they played the Raiders. And, Bryce Young played the Falcons too, and I don't think their defense is that good, even though, they like to act like Raheem Morris is a great head coach and great defensive guy. I think he's a great defensive coach when he's not the head coach. And then you got Jacoby Brissett was 4th. And that was against the 49ers. Justin Fields was 5th, and he's benched. He's benched because the Jets actually think that that's going to matter. Justin Fields gets into these – he signs with these teams he has no chance of succeeding. So that might have been his last chance too. New York might have been his last chance, but you never know, but it just might have been. But then you got Brock Purdy. He came in sixth for the week or seventh for the week. Sixth for the week. And then Baker Mayfield, seventh in the low point leagues last week. And then Jordan Love was eighth. So a little different than the high point leagues. But, Josh Allen, of course, was number one because he had a great week. Now let's get to the receivers in the high point league. We'll go with the top eight again. Jamison Williams, we already had a question about should you trade Mark Andrews? Should he trade Mark Andrews for Jamison Williams? And I told him yes, I would do it because he said he had Gadsden. So why are you going to keep both? The bye weeks are over, for the most part. So why would you trade CD for Abuka and Ladd? My God, of course. Why wouldn't you do that trade? They're younger than him for one. Both of them are younger, and they're really good receivers who are only going to get better as their years go on. If this is a keeper league, you definitely make that trade. I would make that trade even if it isn't a keeper league. So what else do we have here? Here's the top 10. Jamison Williams, or top 8. Jamison Williams. Tyrell Shaver from the Buffalo, but remember, he faced the Buccaneers, so that may not happen again. Greg Dortch, Arizona. Tyquan Thornton, Kansas City. Michael Wilson, Arizona. Teterio McMillan, I butchered it. I know I did. For the Panthers, he had a great week. George Pickens for the the Cowboys, and then Drake London for the Falcons. But don't pick him up if he's available because he's doubtful. So that means he probably isn't going to play. Doubtful usually means out. So now we have the low point league receivers. McMillan from Carolina. I'm not going to attempt to say his name again because I'll just butcher it. George Pickens, Michael Wilson from Arizona, Christian Watson from Green Bay, Jamison Williams for, of course, Detroit, Nico Collins from the Texans, Shavers from Buffalo. But remember, that was against a terrible Tampa Bay defense. So, will that happen again? Will he play? Will he get those points this week again? Who are they playing? He probably won't. So it doesn't matter who they're playing because they're not playing Tampa Bay. Xavier Leggett is 8th in the low point leagues from the Panthers. So we got that. We can move on to the running backs now. Let's see what if we get any. We could get questions. People could also give us questions on comments on the on Facebook and Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you have questions, if you're watching on there, you can put questions on the screen and I could answer those. Should I flex David Montgomery or Addison? I'm going with Montgomery. Yep, I'm going with Montgomery. You got to go with Montgomery. I think he's just more reliable at this point. DK or Pierce. I traded Jennings and Rashad for Jacobs and Emeka. I think you won the trade. Yeah, I think you won the trade. I would have to agree with that. I think you won that trade. So good trade, good move. We got drop Gadsden for Jawan Johnson. I don't know if I'd do that. Trade Tet for Javonte Williams. Okay. No. I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. So we got, some questions there. I love the questions. We'll get the questions. I like to answer the questions. I got to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you when I do a terrible mistake. When I screw it up big time and give you some bad advice, I'm going to be right there to tell you I screwed it up. So I want to take some credit because last week on this show, when I talked about picking up players who return kicks, I mentioned Sean Tucker. Pick up Sean Tucker. But I also mentioned Sean because Bucky Irving was still out. Well, lo and behold, Sean Tucker was in high point leagues. He was projected to get, I think, 28 points. Let me look here. See if I can see what he was projected for. See if I can see what he was projected for because I know what he got. Oh, let's see. So Sean Tucker was projected for 30 points in high point leagues. He ended up getting 112 points. So I hope you listened to me. And I hope you picked the guy up because he had a great week. I mean, Buffalo is terrible against the run. So it was going to be either him or Rachaad White. And it was him. He got around end very well on Sunday. It's a shame that Tampa Bay wasted a great effort like that. It's kind of disgusting that they wasted an effort like that. But they did. And but Sean Tucker, if you still haven't picked him up, pick him up. He's going to get carries. I don't know if Lewis is back, who knows? Or Irving is back. Who knows? We've heard he was going to come back before, and he hadn't come back. I didn't think this injury was going to be that long, but it has been. So Sean Tucker, number 1 on running backs last week. Bijan Robinson, number 2. I still don't believe in him, but, I might be just an idiot. Trayvon Henderson, number 3. Derrick Henry, number 4. Christian McCaffrey, 5. Ty Johnson from Buffalo, 6. Remember that also against the terrible Buccaneers defense. So don't expect Ty Johnson to have that same week again. Kenneth Gainwell from Pittsburgh. And then Jamar Gibbs. That rounds out the top 8 for the running back position in the high point leagues. Now let's get to the low point leagues. We got Sean Tucker again, okay? Sean Tucker was projected to have in low point leagues last week. He was projected to get 6.88 points. He ended up with 32. He ended up with 32 points in the low point leagues. So, so 5.5 times what he was projected. That's pretty good. Then number 2 was Christian McCaffrey. Trayvon Henderson was 3. Bijan Robinson 4 against, Carolina. A pretty good improving defense. Kenneth Gainwell, Pittsburgh. Travis Etienne, Jacksonville. Derrick Henry against the Browns defense, but that's a damn good week because the Browns usually stop Henry and are a very good defense. So Genty for Sutton. I don't know, Mark. It has to depend on what you have at the running back position or if you're so short on the receiver position that you're willing to give up Ashton Genty, who else are your running backs? I don't know if I would do that trade. You need a receiver, but what are your running backs? Mark, how's your running back position? How many do you play, and how many running backs do you have, and who are they? So, that would have to be a part of the equation, if you ask me. And the final running back in the top 8 was James Cook. And, of course, he played for Buffalo, and they played Tampa. So a defensive player. You need a defensive player. Let's real quick. Let's look. Let's go over that right now. Since you got Junkins, Aaron Jones, and okay. All right. Yeah, I guess you could trade Genty then. I would trade him if you have that stockpile of let's see here. Defensive player to pick up. Let's go. Well, Myles Garrett's available. Kyle Duggar, James Pierre, Jaquan McMillan, because he just came back, so he might still be available. Kyle Hamilton, Cameron Kitchens, Demondor Lenore, Carson Schweschinger for the Browns. That was a great draft pick by the Browns. So, those are some guys that I would pick up. I have Aaron Jones, Gibbs, and Achen in a 12-man. Should I trade Gibbs? No, I would trade one of the other two before I trade Gibbs. I would definitely trade one of the other two before I trade Gibbs. I just would. That's just me. But, we all have our preferences and who we want, what kind of player we like. But I would definitely keep Gibbs. I would trade one of the other two. No way. I'm not trading Ibuka at this point of his career. I'm not trading him. I don't care if it's a keeper league or if it's just a one-year league. I'm just not trading him. He's primed. He didn't have a great week last week, but he's primed to have a great week coming up again. Ibuka is a true number one on a team that has 3 number ones. The other 2 number ones are injured right now. So, yeah. Jefferson for Ibuka. I guess because he's not on a team that's loaded with receivers. Oh, God. You want me to go through those defensive players again? All right. Let me do that one more time. Let's do it again. I'm here to answer the questions. So, like I said, if Myles Garrett's available, probably isn't. Kyle Duggar, James Pierre, Jaquan McMillan. He might be available because he just came back. Kyle Hamilton, Cameron Kitchens, Demondor Lenore, Carson Schweschinger from Cleveland. He's a linebacker. I'm telling you something, especially if it's a keeper league. He's going to be really good for a long time. Devin Bush, though that's Will Anderson if he's available. So that's what I think about the defensive people. We got to move on, but we got some other questions here. I'm losing. Trade London, Warren, and Moore for Harvey, Debo, and Kamara. Oh, gosh. That almost seems like an even swap to me. So that's kind of like, do you want to do that? You know what I mean? I don't know. It seems like an even swap. So either way, I don't think you lose. Carson Schweschinger. He's a linebacker for the Cleveland Browns. He's out of UCLA. I believe it's UCLA. It's either UCLA or USC. He was a really good draft pick for the Browns. It was a very good draft pick for the Browns. I would definitely pick him up. He's a linebacker. I would pick him up. Just traded Hall, Shakir, and Tucker for Javonte Williams and Q Johnston. I'm not a huge Hall fan. Tucker won't. Yeah, I think it's a win. I think you won. Jake Avery, you won that trade. You definitely won that trade, Jake, because I'm not a Hall fan. Shakir, yeah, but Tucker, no way. Tucker, he's good, but he's not going to play a lot once Bucky Irving gets back. So you unloaded him while he had value. Very good. And Heidi Garcia, thank you very much for asking. I hope it works out for you. I've got a lot of faith in Carson Schlesinger, and I'm telling you something. Cleveland fans love him. I'm not a Browns fan. I live in Cleveland. I think he was a great draft pick. I would love him if he was on Tampa Bay. He would really help Tampa Bay's terrible defense. So, yeah, he's going to get you points. He's going to get you points. You wait and see. I'll be very disappointed if he doesn't, but I think he will. Nico Collins for Ladd McConkey. Jay Aaron asks. No, I wouldn't do that just because Stroud is inconsistent and he's out now. And, I mean, Herbert's inconsistent too, but even when he's inconsistent, McConkey gets catches. Should I start Michael Wilson again this week? Well, what are your other choices? Ezekiel McIntosh. What are your other choices? That's always the key. Sometimes you have to sit there and you have to say, okay, do I have a better option? But I need to know what your other options are. And then I could give you an answer on that. I really hope Schlesinger works out for you, Heidi. I really hope so. I'm jealous of Browns fans that he's on their team because he's good. Okay, Pierce and Judy Booty. Alec Pierce and Judy Booty. Yeah, you know what? Start Wilson again. I would start Wilson again. But let's get to the tight ends in the high point. We haven't done that yet. We got to we did some defensive work for Heidi. So would you trade Brock Bowers for Tyler Warren? I would not trade Brock Bowers before this week. The Browns do have a good defense, but I feel like he might have a good week. So, but Tyler Warren's pretty good. If it's a keeper league, I'd wait maybe. And then do it. But I feel like Bowers will probably get traded too. I think he will. Raiders are god-awful. They're god-awful. J-Mo and Bowers for Fannin and Nico. No way. No way. No way. Fannin and Nico are not consistent enough to make that deal. If 5-6 is giving Lamar Warren and London for Stafford, Henry, and A.J. Brown, good? Let me see. 5 and 6 and is giving Lamar Warren, Henry. It's a good trade. Yeah, I would do that. I would make that trade. Evan says, Drake London for T. Higgins, straight up. I have to win now. That's tough. I have to win now. Those are always tough situations. I have to win now. I'd do it. Yeah. Cincinnati's too inconsistent at this point. I would do that. So let's get with the tight ends here. We got the tight ends in the high point league. Trey McBride, George Kittle, Travis Kelce. What do you think about Kyle Pitts this week? Atlanta's playing the Saints, and they suck. He's inconsistent too, though. I have no faith in Kyle Pitts. If you have other options, go with them. I just have no faith in Kyle Pitts. Plus, Penix is out now, and looks like Cousins might play the rest of the year. So who knows what's going to happen with Pitts. But Trey McBride, George Kittle, Travis Kelce, A.J. Marner, Tommy Trimble, Mark Andrews, Brock Bowers, and Darrell Washington are your top 8 in the high point fantasy leagues for tight ends. And now the low point, Kittle, McBride, Kelce, Andrews, Ferguson, Parkinson, Bowers, and A.J. Barner, pretty much the same ones. So, that's pretty much what that is. And now we're going to go with the kickers next. We already went with the defensive players, but we'll go with those after we go with the kickers because, we didn't have, we did the kickers before we normally would. So we did the defensive players earlier because Heidi Garcia was asking. She needed a player to pick up, and so I wanted to help her out there. I like to, answer the questions when they come because then I'm trying to scroll if I can't answer them. So I think that, we got some kickers. There's kickers. There's a lot of kickers. We've had good kickers. Guys that have come out of nowhere that had chances many times places, and now they're getting other chances. Zane Gonzalez, former Brown kicker, who wasn't very good when he was in Cleveland. He's been around. He's been kicking for Atlanta right now. Cairo Santos, former Chief kicker. He's been in Chicago a while. He's number 2 last week. Will Lutz was 3. Brandon Aubrey was 4. I don't know how Brandon Aubrey isn't number 1 every week because it seems like the national broadcasters have put him at the top as the greatest kicker in the history of football simply because he plays for the Cowboys. But he's good. He's good. Don't get me wrong, but there's other kickers that are better. Joey Sly, Tennessee. Jason Myers, Seattle. Eddie Pinheiro from the 49ers. And Matthew Wright from Houston. That's the high point kickers. And then we have from the low point kickers, we have Will Lutz, Cairo Santos, Jason Myers, Eddie Pinheiro, Matthew Wright, Tyler Luke from Baltimore, Zane Gonzalez from Atlanta, and Riley Patterson from Miami. No Cam Little this week. Remember last week he was in there because he kicked that field goal, but no Cam Little this week. So, kickers are very up and down. Very up and down. 6'7", 6'7", 6'7". Okay. But that's just how it that's how it is with kickers. You know what I mean? And that's not saying they're bad. They're just up and down. They may not get chances. So I think that you got to stick with kickers. Hopefully they won't lose you a week if they don't get a chance to kick. But I think you stick with a kicker. I very rarely change kickers. I do it on bye weeks maybe. And I'll tell you what, even if I know I've got a good shot at winning, sometimes I don't even pick up a kicker for the bye week. You know what I mean? Because if you have a good one, you got to stick with them. You can't just give up on a guy because he has a bad week. Like we've all had bad days at our job. I know theirs is more high pressure, but we all have bad days at our job. That's not a Smite or Smith, however the hell you say his name, for Cleveland. The people in Cleveland wanted to hang him in public square after week 1. Hang him in public square in Cleveland. The guy has been great since. The guy has been absolutely fantastic since. So you got to stick with kickers. They're going to have a bad week. Every kicker in the history of football, every single one of them, has had a bad week. Conditions, especially fantasy, conditions could be part of it. Could have an injury, or maybe just doesn't get to kick that week. I think Broncos best in the league, but not according to fantasy. Not for fantasy. Let me show you. Here is the top 8 for fantasy. And we got Pittsburgh was number 1 last week. Cleveland was number 2. Jacksonville was 3. I need a quarterback. Should I pick up Davis Mills or Tyler? I'd pick up Davis Mills. He gets good numbers. He does. Tyler Shaw, I don't know. No, I don't think so. David Mills for sure. Jenny for Sutton. Well, I don't know. I really like Genty a lot. I think he's going to have a lot of good years coming up. But I don't know. Is it a keeper league? If it's a keeper league, Mark, then don't do it. Oh, Junkins. Genty for Junkins or Junkins for Sutton? I also like Junkins a lot too. So let's see what Mark has to say here. Is he going to give me is he going to let me know? Junkins for Sutton. No, not doing it. I wouldn't do it. The Browns have to depend on the run a lot too. So Romeo Dubs for, hey, I hate that guy's name. I can't say it right. Or Khalil Shakir. I'm going with Shakir. I am. I definitely would. But so we got Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Jacksonville, Baltimore, Dallas, Denver, Philadelphia, Houston, top 8 defenses in the high point leagues. I wouldn't count on Dallas to be the top. They're playing Philadelphia this week, so don't count on that again. Actually, that was the low point. Or actually, no. How crazy is that? It is that similar. The high point, though, that was the low point. The high point is Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Jacksonville, Baltimore, Dallas, Denver, Philadelphia, and then Houston. And the low point, we'll go over that again. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Jacksonville, Houston, Los Angeles, Rams, Baltimore, Dallas, and Miami. Let's take a look here. Let's just take a look. In the high point leagues, we got these defenses ranked, okay? The Pittsburgh was number 1 and 111.8 points in the high point league. I've been talking about how horrific Tampa Bay's defense is. Trade Aaron Jones and Troy Franklin for Junkins and Ganson. Is this a keeper league or not? Carsenix, is this a keeper league or not? If it's not a keeper league, I don't know. It's not a keeper league, then I don't do it. Okay, I don't do it. I think you should keep what you have just because the Browns are so unpredictable right now. So yeah, I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. If it was a keeper league, I would do it because Junkins, he's going to have some great years, but not in a redraft league. So we got back to this defense thing. We got Pittsburgh 111.8 for the highest defense last week. And we're talking about how disgusting Tampa Bay is. Oh, they have rows of 25 it goes 25, all right? Well, they're not even in the top 25. They're going to be last. Oh, they're going to be dead last. 111 for 100 and they're not dead last, but 111 for Pittsburgh. Tampa Bay in high point leagues last week, I can't believe they're positive. They got 28. They're terrible, people. You need at least 50 points from your defense. You need at least 50 points. So, they weren't, you know what? They were last. You know why they were last? They were last simply because Indianapolis and New Orleans did not play. So Tampa Bay was dead last. Actually, it was 23, not 28. 23.2. And they stink. They stink. You know, their defense stinks. They stink. Oh, they had 21. So Tampa Bay was not. They were 23rd. 2 points. 2 friggin' points. 2 friggin' points. No, I think it's just the offense Gentry's in. I think he's going to be a very good NFL back. I feel like it's the offense right now. You know, Seattle's there. The Raiders are in their first year under Pete Carroll. He's got to get things figured out. You know, and remember in Seattle, the running backs were a big part of it, and I think that's why they drafted Gentry, because he plans on him being a big part of things. So I would not give up on Gentry. I mean, they are playing the Browns this week, so it could be tough because the Browns do have a good defense. So that's it. With the defense wise, you know, Tampa Bay's defense stinks, and we're gonna stick with that, and we're not going to. I'm just gonna give you the advice, people. Don't pick up Tampa Bay's defense, team defense. Maybe some individual players. How do you feel about Jefferson and Bucky for CD and Devontae Adams? Well, I don't know. You know, hopefully Bucky Irving comes back. Obviously, as a Buccaneers fan, I hope he comes back. And he is a great fantasy player too. But I just don't know. Is he going to come back and he's going to be healthy? Normally, if everybody's healthy in this trade right here, I'm saying do it. But Irving's not healthy. So I don't know. You know, I guess I would hold off on it. I would say, but then you know what? If he comes back and has a great week, are you going to want to trade him then? I don't know. I don't know, Say Ryder. I don't know what I would do in this case. Texans defense against Bills this week. Texans defense is good. I'd do it because I think that Bills offense is good, but you know what? Tampa Bay made them look like the greatest offense of all time last week. Let's face it, they did. It was pathetic. It was a pathetic effort by the Tampa Bay defense. So I would go with the Texans. I would. Everybody is so excited that the Bills are back on track. Well, yeah, they played a horrible defense. Jefferson has been scaring me recently. I'm looking to trade, but don't know for what. I agree with you, Sarah Ryder. J.J. McCarthy's, I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. So that's got to be an issue too. You got to look who your quarterback is, so if you could get something for him, I don't know. That trade wasn't a bad trade, but I don't know about trading Irving because what if he comes back and he's great and then you traded him? You know what I mean? So maybe if you could, is it possible that you could trade, I don't know, could you trade Jefferson straight up for either CD or Devontae Adams? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I feel like out of nowhere, I just want to say 5-6 or 6-7, 6-7, 6-7, 6-7. I don't know. They've been doing that at the Cavs games a lot, and I cover the Cavs, so now it's stuck in my head. I would see if I could trade CD for Jefferson, or maybe I don't know if I'd trade Jefferson for Adams though, because maybe CD for Jefferson straight up. Adams, I think, is past his prime. Maybe Jefferson for CD straight up. That maybe I'd do that. What about Dowdell or Giovanni instead of Bucky? Okay, maybe that. Yeah, maybe that. I just wouldn't. Is it a keeper league? Say, Ryder, is it a keeper league? If it's a keeper league, no keep. Who should I keep? Ross, Chase, Brown, or Travion Henderson? Oh, I think Henderson's going to be a good. I'm liking what I see from Henderson. And I think that, remember, Derrick Henry had great years with Mike Vrabel as his coach. Henry's a beast himself, but I think Mike Vrabel really likes using that running game anytime he can to wear down the defense. Okay, so should I do Junkins for Sutton and Singletary? Non-keeper league? Mark, is it a non-keeper league? If it's a non-keeper league, if it's a redraft league, do it. Do it. Because you're getting 2 for 1 right now. And as the playoffs start, it gives you depth. And let's face it, Junkins, well, I think he's going to be great and going to be a great fantasy player for years. Right now, the state of the Browns, I don't know. You know what I mean? So you got to get something now, right? You got to get something now. And that would help you get something now. Yours is a redraft too. So what was I saying? I wanted to know about the redraft. If it's a redraft, Dowdell or Giovanni instead of Bucky. I would do that. I would definitely do that. Yeah, I would do one of those two instead of him. Just try to keep him because I still think that Irving's going to come back and he's really going to help the Buccaneers in the end, and they're going to rely on him heavily. Someone offered me, Joey Boy says, someone offered me Kelsey for Swift, and I accepted. I'm struggling at tight end and good in running backs. I win. You win, Joey Boy. I definitely would do that trade, especially if you're struggling at tight end. So do it. I think you win. I think you definitely win. You make these trades and sometimes you think, oh gosh, should I have done it? But you can't regret it once you do it. I always get the two confused. There was a defensive end for the Saints, Jordan Cameron, I believe. And Cameron Jordan was a tight end for the Browns. This genius you're looking at right here, several years ago, kept Cameron Jordan and cut Rob Gronkowski. But it happened. I did it, and it's over, and I can't worry about that. You know what I mean? It was a terrible move because Gronkowski was getting hurt a lot. So I thought that Jordan was the better. Terribly dumb move, but that's it. But you know what I've done? How about this? I've won 5 championships since that. Yeah, I recovered okay. So you can't be afraid to make moves. You just can't. Just like GMs in real sports cannot be afraid to make moves. You know what I mean? So make the moves. Someone's offering me Pickens and Ladd for Amara. You're getting 2 really good receivers for 1 really, really good receiver. But the problem is Pickens has weeks where he doesn't show up. Amara St. Brown shows up almost every week. So that's a tough one. Anish Badahara. I probably butchered your name, and I'm very sorry. Unless it's like the name is like John Green. I'm terrible with names. But I'm going to leave that to you, okay? I probably would leave that trade and not decide right away. Yeah, because I'm just not sure about that one. Schultz and Collins for 4 or more receptions against the Bills. Oh, okay. Schultz and Collins for him? Yes, I think so. I think so. Look, Tampa Bay had success against the Bills. They did. Is it 4 or more receptions combined or 4 or more receptions each? You know what? I'm doing both. I think that they'll have 8 receptions combined. So, yeah, I think they will. I do. Who wins this trade? In this trade, McCaffrey and T. Higgins for Gibbs and St. Brown. Oh, geez. Boy, that's a tough one. You know what? I'm going with the person who gets Gibbs and St. Brown because McCaffrey's hurt a lot and T. Higgins has weeks where there's nothing. So I'm going with Gibbs. I'm going with Gibbs and St. Brown. Whoever got them would win. So each. Oh yeah, definitely Ryan. Each. I think they'll get 4 each. I really do. Do I accept Diggs and Rico for Achin? No. No way. That's a no. That's a no, Sam Neal. That's an absolute no. And like I said, they'll both get 4 receptions each, Ryan. I believe they will. So I wouldn't do that trade. Ryan wants to know, should I start Dowdell or Henderson? Henderson, I mean. Start Henderson. Yep, I think there's no turning back now on him. He's going to become a star in the NFL. Mike Vrabel wants him to be a star, and he's going to be a star. So, yeah, I'm going with Henderson. Unfortunately, for those of us who had to suffer through the 20-year reign of the Patriots, I think it could start again because Vrabel's a great coach. So, and they've accumulated some talent. So, I think we could see that all over again. Maybe not to the extent the Belichick Patriots were, but I think the Patriots are going to be very good again, and Henderson's going to be a huge part of it. So, I think that might be about it. We've been on the air nearly an hour now. We got a question here from Sosa. Drop Shakir or Sutton? Oh, that's a tough one. I'd hate to drop either of those. But if you got to drop one, Shakir. I think so. I think so. As a Dolphins fan, I am not ready for both the Bills and the Patriots to be great. I get it. The Bills could be on the end of their run, though. They have to get their act together here. I think Sean McDermott's going to get fired. I really do. If the Bills don't get to the Super Bowl, they part ways. I really think so. But I know I get it as a Dolphins fan. It's tough to watch. You're probably a younger guy. I remember when the Dolphins ran that division. They ran it when Don Shula was the coach. They forced him out, though. That owner forced him out. Yeah, that was a good move. They've not achieved anything close since. But I root for the Dolphins. I like the Dolphins. That's my wife's favorite team. But if they don't make it to the Super Bowl, do you think they wasted Josh Allen's prime? Well, if they never make it, yeah. But you know what? Getting to the Super Bowl isn't always the end-all, be-all. Like here in Cleveland, I was a Browns and a Buccaneers fan back in the 80s. And, Bernie Kosar, he never got to a Super Bowl, but we love that guy. He gave everything he had. He just got a liver transplant this week. And prayers to Bernie. He's an amazing human being. I wouldn't say that the Browns wasted his. time. And yeah, he won a Super Bowl with the Cowboys, but he was a backup. No, I don't always say you wasted it. They just didn't get there. The Bills didn't waste Jim Kelly. They never won a Super Bowl. They didn't waste him though. I think everybody is so obsessed with you got to win it all. You got to win it all. You know what I mean? But Josh Allen's a great guy and a great player. And the Bills aren't wasting him. They just haven't been able to get it done. You know what I mean? You only got one champion every year. And you got like 6 or 7 elite quarterbacks. So Lamar Jackson hasn't, look, Lamar Jackson. He hasn't won a Super Bowl. Have the Ravens wasted his career? Same draft. I don't think they have. They just haven't got over the top. I don't ever want the Ravens to get over the top being a Clevelander. But, no, I understand your frustration as a Dolphins fan, though. It would have been nice if I thought they were building something there, and it just hasn't, worked out, Ryan. Hopefully, maybe things will turn around. I don't know if they have the right coach. I think he worked early, but I'm not sure it's working now. So, but you just don't know. You know what I mean? It's hard to judge. We'll go a few more minutes here. We'll go like 5 more minutes. Get over that hour mark here on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook with my Fantasy Weekly. I love talking fantasy sports. I love it. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll do this show when football ends. Maybe we'll do a show each week where we talk about basketball. I could try to talk about hockey. I don't know a lot about it. I could have one of my friends on, maybe, if he would want to come on. He knows a lot about hockey. But I could talk about baseball too. Baseball's my favorite sport. Trade London and Warren for Dowdell and Olave. Jay Patrick is asking this. You know what? I think I make that trade. Wait, let me ask you first. Is it a redraft league or is it a keeper league? Jay Patrick. Is it a redraft league or is it a keeper league? That's what you really have to consider in these. I'm in like 3 keeper leagues and I'm in 4 leagues where you don't keep. It's a redraft. You're 7-4. You're 7-4 though. Are you one of the top 2 teams right now? You're probably not, right? 7-4 is probably not one of the top 2. Are you one of the top 2? So that's what you're trying to do is get a bye. You have to look at it and you have to say, does this improve me enough where I'm going to be able to get the bye? You're right, Whack Daddy. I'm not old as hell. I'm 58, but I'm going to say it right here. A little bitch like you should probably think that before you talk. Because let me tell you something, buddy. I have more knowledge in my little finger than you got in your whole goddamn body. So shut your mouth. Okay? How about this, Jacob Tahari? My kids are grown. Go to hell. All right? I got London Pickens and Waddell BG. Oh, that's good. Yeah, make the trade. I would make the trade. I just had to mention, some of those punks that show their face here, put them in their place. But I think that, Alex Pierce and London for Jamar Chase. Well, Chase is about to get suspended for a game, so I don't know. I don't know if I'd do that trade. But trade Jamar and Addison for Puka and Watson. What do you think? How about it's a tough one. That's almost an even trade, I think. I think that's almost an even trade. No, my kid's very proud of what I'm doing, Jacob. I've been a journalist for 28 years, so maybe you ought to just shut up. But the glasses. All right. Yeah. You know what? Who cares what you would do, loser? Okay. Yeah. Good, Big Lou. I love these people who show up and just say a bunch of crap. If you're going to criticize me for being on here, why are you on here? You know, I got a lot of people asking questions. So, you know, who cares? The haters are always going to be there. You know, go ahead. Be a hater. Who gives a crap? I have a job, by the way, loser. We are done with the show for tonight. We went over the hour we wanted to go over. I hope I answered a lot of questions. I'm sorry about the idiots at the end. But you know, there's always idiots everywhere you go. And I'm done for the night. And I will be looking and attempting, you know, to help out next week. Oh, Baker or Stafford? I'm going with Stafford this week. So, you know, that's it, you know. But that Ladd and Jay Warren for Rico and Dubs, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah, I would go with Stafford. I would go with Stafford this week. The Buccaneers defense is trash. So drop Laporta. No, I wouldn't drop him. I wouldn't give up on him yet. But we're done. I'm going to have to go now, guys. And you guys have a good night. And thanks for the people who are respectful on here. The other people who are not respectful, they can just go to hell. But I'll see you next week. And you all have a nice week. Have a good week. And be kind to people. Don't be like some of the idiots on here. Have a good night, everybody.